right here with Greenbrier East Coach Ray Lee, Spartans Media Day today. And Coach, first of all, you've got an experienced quarterback coming back, and it seems like you guys kind of always have an experienced guy back there. I think you told me one time that it's like every 3 years you had a quarterback for those time, for those periods. I know Monquell was a 3-4 year guy, and I think you had some guys before that were 3-year starters too, right?
Yeah.
Who were some of those quarterbacks that were long-time starters for you?
You know, we had, like you said, Monquell. Prior to Monquell was Kyle King, and prior to Kyle King was, Jonathan Carr, and then prior to Jonathan Carr was Isaiah Kinder.
And those guys were all like 3-year starters, weren't they? I
yeah.
mean, so it's a position where if you can get a guy there, you want to keep him there. But talk about Brody's play. I mean, 1,600 yards last year. You told me you'd like to clean up the interceptions, maybe have a better percentage completion. But just talk about him as a quarterback, what you saw from him last year.
You know, pretty much his grit, being out there as a sophomore leading the team. When I say leading the team, we were real inexperienced last year. And he always came out with that grit, to make himself better and make the team better. So when you say that, him being, what he did last year, I thought it was exceptional.
Did that Woodrow game kind of typify that? I mean, he got hit a lot, but he still threw for 253 yards. He still threw for 4 touchdowns. I mean, was that just an example of the kind of player he is, to take the kind of punishment he took and still have a big game?
Yeah, he's like I said, he's tough both mentally and physically. Always talk to him, even when, like you said, he wanted to try and clean up the interceptions. He always knows the mistake that he made, that he didn't make the right read, but never lets it get him down, to where he takes himself out of the game. He shows a lot of leadership in that manner. And when things don't go like we want it to go, he always steps up and try to keep everybody else motivated.
Sounds like his leadership is beyond reproach. What are the things you'd like to see him improve on? Not necessarily statistical-wise, but just parts of his game you'd like to see him improve this year.
He's not a talkative guy. Not vocal. He's not the big rah-rah type. But if he had, when you're saying an improvement, pretty much, speak up, get him going. Now, when he does talk, everybody, shuts down and listen to what he has to say. But he's not a big rah-rah guy. Other than that, he leads by an example, doing the things out here in practice, leading out here in the game time when games come rolling along. So that's his leadership role right there.
What are your expectations for him this year?
Pretty much what he talked about. We're working on, better reads, getting the ball out, getting it to the right receivers, and just cutting down on those interceptions. And a lot of the interceptions last year was just that, the experience, and being lack of, I'll say it in that manner. But he's, starting to pick it up. Went to a lot of camps this year, had some, guys come in and work with him also. So he's starting to really learn the game a whole lot more.
He started one game for you as a freshman when Monquell got hurt. How did that aid him coming into last year? If he had not had that start, I mean, he would have been basically starting with no kind of idea he kind of had an idea what the varsity experience was going to be like. How did that help him?
He's a smart. When I say a smart guy, his football IQ is pretty good and real coachable. And when I say coachable, you can tell him something, he picks up on it right away. Starting that freshman year, it was one of those games where you're just kind of like, hey, just go out and learn from it. And I think he had some pretty good success. We ran the ball well, we had a pretty good running back then, but he got to throw the ball, and he was like, I want to say 4 for 7, about 80-something yards and 2 touchdowns. So that gave him a lot of confidence, then throw an interception in that game.
Well, I mean, you had a kid named Ian Klein at that time, and he was a pretty good running back. So to be the player of a game in your first start of your career is that's a pretty good accomplishment. How about Grant Burdette? Now, I understand he's getting some interest from Virginia Tech, so the D1s are starting to call. He's going to be your tight end this year. What kind of things does he bring to the table?
Just that. That he brings, that level of physicality. Leadership, same thing. Everybody knows, what he brings to the table. He's been a starter for us since his freshman year. He started all 10 games his freshman year at the same spot. Last year did the same thing.
He's a junior with Hamric, right?
Correct. He's a junior. So he's looking forward to a good year and starting to get some looks from some schools, and I think that's showing himself and his teammates, that you can do this, as long as you put the work in. He works hard in the weight room, does extra work before practice and extra work before school.
Did you know when he came into your program as a freshman? I mean, you probably saw him as a middle school kid. You probably had an idea. Did you know he'd be an immediate starter? Or did he have to earn it in that first camp?
When you look at some kids and you look at their grit when they come in here, like we got a couple freshmen now that we think, can go up and down. But once we, put them on varsity, we got a couple freshmen now, and Grant was in the same boat when he showed up. You look at him and say, this could be a varsity player for us as a freshman.
Right.
Usually we have one every year where we get a ninth grader, freshman comes in, and he's a varsity player. And when he came in, we kind of eyed him up. Was going to play him on JV, but he started showing some things in the scrimmages where we were just like, you know what, we'll just keep him here on varsity. And we don't change them up. Once they're a varsity player, we don't send them down, to play the open date that we have on varsity to play JV. They're a varsity player, and we keep them there.
What is what's one reason why you think this will be a successful season? If you had to tell the fans, this is why we think we're going to improve this year, what would it be?
Then, and I think that's all we're looking to do is improve on what took place last year, whether it's, one game more, 2 games more. But, our expectations and our standards, we set them high. We don't come out and just say, hey, let's just win 1 game more than we won last year. Every coach want to, have that season where you're undefeated at the end of every week. And that's all we stress to our guys. Right now, we play Riverside, our first football game. And that's all we're focusing on.
All right, Coach, I appreciate the time, and good luck this season. We'll see you somewhere this year.
All right, appreciate y'all.